Hi there, you wonderful seed of light. I'm Brian. I'm a servant of heaven, and I'd like to talk to you about being a master of your mind and your heart. Part of your journey to this world was to give you the opportunity to see what you were going to do with your consciousness and what you were going to choose. And what I'm about to share with you here is going to help you to gain control of your life, gain control of your mind, and also observe patterns of being manipulated by others. Apart from this too, it's also going to help you to be a better judge of other people you come across, because what you're going to realize is that we all work in a lot of the same ways. Our suffering is the same. We all have the same basic problems. And so the things that apply to you and how you work through gaining control of your consciousness are the same things that apply to others. And so you're going to be able to start seeing yourself and others as you learn these practices. Now, let's talk about consciousness a little bit. What is consciousness? And we hear all this stuff. Now, you see back in the day, so you can dance to a song, higher state of consciousness, and all that, And what is a higher state of consciousness? Well, let's take a moment to define that. Your consciousness is what you are aware of. Your experiences that you go through give you new perspectives to look at a thing from. So in one way, we could say our consciousness is a collection of these different perspectives from which we look at something. This is also how we can define intelligence, because intelligence literally is how many perspectives can you observe a thing from. The more experience you go through, the more intelligence that you gain, the more perspectives you're going to be able to look at something from. That's why a really smart person will look at something and give you answers you didn't realize, because you have yet to go through the experience to add these perspectives. And that's why it's wonderful to allow ourselves to go through this life and to learn our lessons rather than fight against them, and even be open to learning new things rather than being a know-it-all, because that's actually what's going to help you grow in your consciousness. And as that consciousness grows, so do you grow. Now, one thing I'd like to point out here is, even though we can look around and say, okay, all humans are consciousness, they possess consciousness. I might kind of argue against that a little bit. And I might point out that I see a lot of people and their consciousness is not a reflection of their experience. They have stayed in their fear. They have not gone out to live life. They haven't gone out to allow themselves to suffer and work through the suffering that will bring them learning. Because make no mistake about it, that's how you learn. And your cycles of suffering will repeat and repeat and repeat until you actually learn the lesson. And to me, that's evidence of a divine classroom. But in this, we observe that a lot of people's consciousness is just a reflection of other people's words. There are some people who really don't think for themselves. They just kind of grab the fruit of other people that they, I don't know, I'm tempted to say align with, but sometimes it's just even our anger that makes us go, oh, I'm going to go be a part of this here because I'm not willing to work through my stuff, so I'm just going to join the team that throws bricks, And it's like, you're not really learning when you do that, You're really just pausing your learning to be angry. But, like I said before, you're existing in a divine classroom right now. And so that lesson will continue to cycle. Your anger will continue to cycle until you choose to become the master of your own mind, of your own thoughts. Okay? So, let's talk about this. The thoughts. What is that? And boy, everybody has thoughts. So we all know what they are. But a lot of people don't realize you can speak to your thoughts. You should be observing them. You should be in control of what happens in there. Here's what happens if you don't. When you go through experiences that hurt you, and you go through the experience, and of course hurt doesn't feel good. What do you do with that though? And it takes a lot of experience to learn what is the right thing to do with this hurt. Well, a lot of times we start out with just being pissed off. and being mad. Maybe, I just wish I could just kick them, or, and we have these petty thoughts. Sometimes we have really bad bloody thoughts, every single one of us. So there's no one that's even watching this that has not had an angry, violent, bloody thought about something. Question is, what did you do with it? Did you continue to remain in that thought? Did you continue to allow it to fester and to create a spirit of anger within you? That's another point. We create spirit. Now, I realize we have spirits, and when we look at spirit, we typically kind of look at that as something that's related to a specific entity. But it's also possible for us to create spirit. And that's what starts happening when we start having these bad thoughts and we allow them to continue to cycle in our mind. Eventually we create this nasty spirit that starts reinforcing those sorts of thoughts. You weren't here to be subservient to those thoughts, to be ruled by that. So what do? Well, what I do is speak to it. As soon as I have a thought come into my mind and I know it is not love, I know it is not in service of the man that I want to be, I instantly speak to it, rebuke it, say, that is not what I'm going to have in my mind, in my heart, and I choose love. I choose something else. Now, sometimes things are so hurtful that you don't really know how to choose something else. And even in that, I say, I still refuse this thought. I rebuke this thought. And then I ask God to show me how to heal myself. And guess what? All you got to do is ask and be willing to walk through your lesson, to be willing to walk through that suffering. And then what happens is eventually you start realizing, the true path to being untangled in your heart is to do the right thing with these things. I had a friend recently over the last few years that it was a new friend that I met, and I had taken care of this person, and I had been there for them many times, and we shared what I thought was a great friendship. And I probably should have observed some of the signs earlier, but the person was a very, very entitled, petty person. Now, unfortunately, this is someone that had to be part of my life. I couldn't remove him from it. And I was also challenging myself to be better. And what happened is this person started doing really, really wicked things, started telling lies, started getting other people to assault me, and it was bad. And I went through the cycle where I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this, and it was difficult in my heart. Now, at first, I was able, being someone who watches my thoughts, I would say no. I rebuke these angry thoughts, and I would come to a place where I feel better about the person and everything, and then all of a sudden, the person would top the last bad thing they did, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just, and then I come to that point and I go, oh, what would Jesus do? Well, if you want to know what Jesus would do, go read the scripture. So I start reading it, and oh wait, here's the answer. Shit, Jesus says I gotta forgive them? What, they don't deserve that? What the hell, I gotta forgive them? Now, if you really think it through, here's the thing. Any choice apart from forgiveness is going to perpetuate their anger in my heart. How weak am I that I would allow someone else to fill me with their anger and allow that to change me? I ain't going to be that. Now, I may not have the strength I need in the moment, but I can call upon that strength. And this cycle went through over and over. And man, if I told the real story, you wouldn't even believe what this person's done. I've never in my life experienced this. But I also understand that God allowed this experience to occur for me so that I could be made into the heart that He would have speak for Him. And it freed me. And you know what? I'm not angry right now. I can still have love for this person. And it wasn't easy, and I had to ask God, show me how to forgive him, because I ain't got it in me. But you know what? It started with that ask. And even through the cycles of this person coming back and doing really bad things to me and my family, I still was able to stand in that, and even to pray for them. and come to a place where, you know what, I still have love for that person, and I'm not bothered by them. Now, they are completely consumed with their anger, completely consumed with pride and entitlement, and that's their choice. I choose something different. Now, here's the thing too, since I've chosen something different, since I have prayed for this person and I've tried to do the difficult thing, well, if that person chooses to find healing in the future, and they choose to make better choices with their thoughts and their own mind, well, since I never crapped on them and I never threw rocks at them, hey, guess what? It's going to be easier for us to come back together and find healing. And I hope that happens. And Great Father, I pray that you would bring me together with this person and free us all, because their whole family needs freedom just like this whole world needs freedom. I thank you for that, Lord. So that's how you walk through it. And it's not always easy, but it is so, so worth it. Guess what? I get to sleep at night. I get to wake up with peace in my heart. I get to walk in any place with peace, even though this world is definitely without peace in many, many ways. And I also have kind of come to a place where I'm constantly speaking my thoughts all day long, because we all see and react to what's out there in the world. And sometimes, we see things that do anger us. There's a lot of this injustice in this world that angers us. What do you do with that, though? Now, staying in that anger isn't the right solution, because anger brings destruction. And if you haven't walked through enough of your anger, you ain't learned that yet, but you will. I guarantee you that. I got to walk through a lot of that as a younger man, and see that, and then realize, man, I'm just making excuses for my anger. I got to stop doing that. I got to become a better person. And that starts with speaking to your thoughts. So I encourage you, speak to your thoughts every day, all day. That is your power to mold what you would have inside of here. And that's how you're going to become the master of your own consciousness. Now, you also need to question the input, okay? When things are coming in, question the reality of it. This is important to do. Question everything. Now, this doesn't mean that you need to argue about everything or throw rocks at everything. What it means is question everything. Here's a practical example. No, I was kind of born with the gift of questioning everything. And I was, as a young man, worked in a tool shop for a little bit. And when I first went and got this job, I started out the bottom. They said, we're moving the tool shop to a new place. We want you to clean all the machines. And these were machines that were covered in carbide and metal shavings, and for decades. And I went into there and I did my best. I spit shined all of those machines, man. It looked like a museum when I was done. And when the boss came in, he was like, holy crap, And but he recognized I was willing to work hard, and even in the difficult tasks. And then what happened is he said, well, I'll tell you what, we're going to have you work on this machine here, and you're going to grind this metal a certain way, okay? Now, working in a tool shop, grinding metal and stuff requires precision. Your pieces have to fit and everything, and cutting edges have to be at the same place when they spin, things like this. So anyhow, precision is important. And as I started working through my first tasks, I realized I don't think they're using this machine in the most efficient way. And I started thinking about it, looking at it, and I actually came up with a different way to use the machine that produced greater precision in less time. And at first the other workers were going, hey, that's not the way you're supposed to do that. But then I showed the boss and I said, hey, measure these things and look at the time it took me. And when they did, they went, oh, well, dang, tell you what, boy, that's pretty precise right there, and it took you less time. You know what my boss did? He said, I'll tell you what, do you think you could go learn one of these other machines and see if we can improve any of that? So I did, and I was able to find other improvements. All of this was just through looking at a thing, being willing to question, is this the best way to go through this? Now, I always do that with learning the current method. You don't walk into something and just go, oh, that's stupid and there's better. No, start out with learning how to do it and then kind of improve from there. So this isn't about going out and wrecking what's out there. It's about observing what could be improved. This is who you should be. Because even if we look at our current scientific community, it's absurd how many people argue with each other over stupid stuff. And a lot of it, they kind of say, we have to have a definition for this. Even if we don't know what it is, we've got to define it, and we're going to stand on that definition. And it's absurd. It's like, what, are you so insecure that you can't leave something undefined? You can't say it's unknown? If I do that, then that leaves room for me to understand it in the future. And that also demonstrates that I'm not so prideful that I have to say I know the answers to everything, because I don't. Guess what? I grow faster that way. You grow faster that way, because we all work the same way in this capacity. So question the things that are coming in. Question what people tell you. Go research and look in your heart. Even pray about it. Say, is this right? Because there's a whole lot of people out there that are not conscious. Someone else rules their mind, rules their actions, and they flood the streets with their empty hearts, their empty minds, and all they have is anger and a mouthful of lies. Man, how empty can you get? You didn't come to this world to be that. And if you're in that state right now, there's still freedom waiting for you. All you got to do is make the choice. So there's a whole other level to being master of your mind. And that is a level of spiritual warfare. So we're spiritual creatures. Right now, our planet is at the end of a cycle of time. We're going through birthing pains to enter the next cycle. And in that, we absolutely are engulfed in spiritual warfare. There's a battle for the soul of this planet. The victor's already known, but we have to walk through this battle so that we can see, hey, what are we going to choose? Because it is our choice for ourselves personally, whether we're going to enter into this next cycle or not. Now, remember too, what I shared before about processing input. Even though I might look like a nice or good person, whatever, you should always use your discernment. Question even what I say, or question what anyone says, because you can't just take it for face value. So, and I actually respect people more who take the time to think about stuff and try to use discernment, because you have to process your input, right? So anyhow, and what I'm about to share, use that too. I'm sharing my experience, but this is also just the words of another man. Now, in my experience, part of this is drawn from my Kung Fu practice too. And so for much of my life, I've learned Kung Fu, and mostly Taoist Kung Fu, and become a master in the Dragon Gate lineage. And I've traveled to China, to Tibet, and even studied at altitude, and went time with no food and learned how to exist without food in the Himalayas and to have all the energy in the world doing it. Spend a lot of time in meditation and developing what I guess the world would see as spiritual skills, maybe from I would say a secular perspective, but the irony is that I went all the way to Tibet to learn that your true connection is to sit down and breathe and to appreciate the love in every breath. And I went, wow, that's some good medicine, and it is good medicine. But even through all of that training, in all of my experience, I found there's only one thing that deals with spirits. There's only one highest authority, and that's the blood of Jesus Christ, because he came here and took the keys to death, hell, and the grave, and he has dominion over all of that. So it's good to know how to exercise that. So I'm going to share a little bit, how do we exercise that? Some thoughts, I guess I'll explain, humans in this form here, we can't hear each other's thoughts yet. Now, I think at some time our species and other species do come to a place where they may be telepathic, but a lot of that too is because they have the freedom of heart not to fear each other. They have the freedom of heart to have discussion with each other and learn from one another. We ain't there yet. We're so damn insecure, we lie to each other. We change our flesh to lie to each other. And we're just so afraid of just sharing our simpleness. And that's where our sweet sincerity is. But we're on our way to that. So here in the flesh, we don't hear each other's thoughts. We can't inject thoughts into the minds of one another. But when you're not in the flesh, you can hear the thoughts of everybody. You could even put thoughts into other people's minds. And spirits, damn sure, can hear your thoughts. can put thoughts into your mind as well. So that's just a part of that way that works. And when you die, you're going to realize that. You may find yourself outside your body going, oh my goodness, I can hear everybody in here. So it's a whole nother level. But while we're here in the flesh, there are going to be times too when spirits try to interject stuff. And you need to know how to combat that. So I'm just going to give you a practical example I went through. One night, I'm sleeping, right? And I kind of wake up and I'm like, oh man, I'm tossing and turning. I need to roll over and go back to sleep. So I do. And then I kind of wake up a little. I feel something. It feels like something's pressing on me a little. I'm like, what is that? And then I hear, Brian. And I instantly recognized that this was not a good spirit. And the first thought I've had was, I can't believe you woke me up. You know what's about to happen. I'm about to rebuke you and go back to sleep. And I realized too in the moment that voice actually came from a show that my roommate was watching, like a haunting show. And that spirit that was in that came through to me. And I was like, oh wow, I didn't realize that even TV shows like that can transmit spirit in that way. That's a really interesting thing I experienced. But in knowing what that spirit was, I instantly bound it, rebuked it, went back to sleep. And how did that go? I said, I bind you in the name of Jesus Christ. I rebuke you and I plead the blood of Jesus Christ over my mind, over my room, over my home. I went back to sleep. Now, to do that, I had to have a relationship with Jesus Christ. I had to understand the power of his name, the power of his blood, and understand that in spiritual realms, that is the highest dominion. And that is also our birthright should we choose to become children of heaven, should we choose to become children of the King. He's right there for us all the way down the line. And we need that, especially today, because you can speak to your thoughts all day long, but apart from having the spiritual authority to deal with the spiritual warfare aspect of it, you're going to get rolled, because you really have no idea how much of that we go through. And we really do. I mean, even in the beginning of life, being, spun out in the flesh, you know how hard the enemy works to keep you from finding out that you have spiritual dominion through the blood of Christ, or finding out that you even have other spiritual gifts. Oh, it's all there. So don't let the enemy stand in between you and your healing. That's not what you came here for. You came here to grow. But the challenge is worth it. The path of growth going through all of this is worth it as well. Because that's what gives your heart the conviction to do the right thing. That's a whole nother topic to get into, but there's an alignment between our mind and our heart that happens as we go through experiences, and our heart gains the conviction to bring the mind into alignment with it. And even the Hopi Indians here in North America spoke a bit about that, about the division of man. They said on their prophecy rock, and they have some lines drawn. It shows when Jesus Christ came into the world. Yeah, the Hopis. Indians here in North America. Go check this out. And in that line, they say that when that occurred, then it kind of began a time where men had two hearts, and basically being out of alignment. And it was the children that would find the medicine of one heart, and that's the sincerity, and that's not being divided, and that's bringing our mind and heart together so that we can stand in strength and be true and be pure and walk in that. So, in becoming master of your own mind, I would absolutely encourage you to ask God to speak to you, to show you, and read the Word too. And there's a lot of great teachers and a lot of great information on spiritual warfare out there, but you need to know about that. You need to carry that with you, so that you can walk into the time that's coming and that's already upon us. The earth's already being shaken, and you need to walk through this with all of the power that you were sent here to find. And thanks for listening. Thanks for letting me share my heart with you, and thanks for walking with me in this journey that we're going through, and the completion of this cycle here. So I love you all. May God bless you. May God keep you.